Hi and welcome to another narration presented by yours truly, Cryptids Roost. Be sure to check out the blooper reel at the end of the video, which is then followed by the end screen where you will find more videos listed. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. Recollections from a small town mortician. Part 3. The finale. Someone keeps killing Saint Nick. It's not as much of a tragedy as you think. This awesome series is written by Loli-nero. So, Santa's dead and on my table. Weird way to start a post, I'm aware, but my life in general is weird, so why shouldn't I? My post and all, and as long as it fits the subreddit's rules, then I figure I may as well say things as they are, even if they are weird. If you're not familiar with me or my posts, then that's fine. It's not really necessary to know what I previously wrote about. All you need to know is that I'm a mortician in a small town up in the Appalachian Mountains. And people tend to die in really strange ways around here. And I'm the lucky star who gets to deal with them. Glamorous, I know. But really, I should get back on subject. Santa. The one and only jolly fat man ended up on my table. Or, well, maybe one and only isn't the best way to describe him, given that 4 other Santas have also landed in my office over the last week. This is a pretty bizarre scenario, even for me, I'll admit. Sure, people get wheeled on in here all the time, and the states in which they arrive can get pretty extreme on the weirdness scale. But 5 Santas? What would the reason for such a bizarre thing even be? Some serial killer hunting Santas? That would be a pretty interesting motive, actually. Unique too. Bet someone's done it before, somewhere. But still, the first Saint Nick to arrive came on Tuesday, bearing a bellyful of Christmas cheer. And by Christmas cheer, I mean carefully gift-wrapped boxes. They were red with a diagonally white stripe design and a glittery green bow perched atop. They didn't even vary with colour though, which was by far the most disappointing part. If someone is running around shoving that kind of stuff up in people's guts, you might as well be a bit more creative with it, decoration wise, you know? I have no clue how these things got in there. I checked his throat for any damage, possibly scrapes or abrasions from them going down, but his throat was totally fine, completely undamaged. I scoured his entire body for any other way they could have been inserted, and incisions, or hell, open necrotic wounds, but there was absolutely nothing. I'll admit the whole thing had me rather stumped. It feels like some plot to a shitty B-rated Christmas themed horror movie. I opened the gift boxes up and inside was nothing. The insides were a bit chalky and ashy, but other than that it was totally empty. Like someone had just gotten stupidly bored and decided that, yeah, they were gonna mysteriously teleport some fucking Christmas presents inside. In the end, I ended up actually learning who the guy was and where he was from. He was an old vet who'd taken up work as a mole Santa during his twilight years, more as something to do out of boredom brought on by retirement. He surprisingly lived close by, just about a couple of dozen kilometers away, down off the mountain. The sheriff came by and told me all this over some coffee back in my office. And even someone like him, who is so experienced and well versed in the strange goings on of this town, was even a little caught off guard by this. That sentiment of his only grew as the next Santa came in, then the next, and you get the gist. Santa Claus after Santa Claus arrived at my office, and both me and the sheriff were left to scratch our heads about it. This is the first time I've honestly seen the sheriff confused about something like this, and how fitting it is that it be the continuous deaths of Saint Nick. Not a lot confused the old sheriff. He'd been round the block far too many times. He knew about the bizarre supernatural goings on of the town, so for this to pull some sort of reaction out of him, well, I'm a bit worried, as you'd expect. I didn't confide in him about my concerns. As much as I respect him, in my time as a mortician, he'd proven himself very complacent in everything that happens here. He covered it up, swept it beneath the proverbial rug, and pretended it never happened, like it wasn't something so incredibly bizarre. Think of the place with the worst crime, the most deaths, explained or otherwise. That's the level that this place is at, and yet despite the staggering number of the deaths and disappearances in these woods, it was never brought up in the news. No official reports were written linking our town to these situations, nor did any fucking conspiracy theory sites discuss it. It was like none of it ever occurred. But this? The Santas? That's just too weird to go unnoticed. I mean, just how many mole Santas can turn up dead or missing before somebody begins to take note? Turns out, it's a whole damn lot. My investigation was quiet. I carefully sifted through the belongings found on the men that still remained in my office, the ones that hadn't yet been shipped out. Some of them had ID somewhere on their bodies, whether it be a driver's license or a freaking Costco card, and I used those to begin looking. Most of the men, being well into their latter years, had Facebook accounts, and with that I was able to track down some sort of history, some family. I never personally reached out to any of these people. I knew that the sheriff would be contacting them to send the bodies on their way home, so my interference would be entirely inappropriate and unprofessional. Not like this entire investigation wasn't unprofessional as is, so I didn't need to add to it. Plus, if I did and word got back to the sheriff, he'd know I was sticking my nose where it didn't belong. A few of them were Canadians, while some others were American, but few were from nearby. Saskatchewan, Prince Edward Island, Florida, you get the idea. Not exactly close to where they ended up. Looking through some of their family and friends' posts, I noticed that none seemed that concerned. There were no posts asking for help finding their loved ones. Nothing requesting information about who last saw them. Just the usual cat pictures and Christian orientated memes, you know the type. The most curious, however, was our latest Santa, an old gentleman named Corey Jackson's wife. His body had been wheeled in at about 6 in the evening, dead as a doornail, while his wife had posted a brand new image of him hardly 30 minutes prior. You could tell it was a recent photo due to the newspaper that was captured in the image, reading that day's date. He must have picked it up just that morning and was reading it as his wife had taken the photo. Even if that photo had been taken that morning, he lived over 16 fucking hours away. So there was no way that guy could have possibly made it that far in that little time. None of it was logical, but God, when is any of it? My next step was to consult my expert on the supernatural. And by that, I mean the random guy I met under more than a little bizarre of circumstances, who may or may not be familiar with the type of situation I was dealing with. He was as helpful as he usually is, and that's to say, not at all. What? Someone's been killing Santa? He stared at me as if I'd grown a second head. I grunted. Yes, Santa. The Santa? He breathed. I clicked my tongue. Of course not, Liam. They are just mole Santas. Santa doesn't exist. He didn't seem too convinced of my assertion. What, you see so much weird shit? People coming back to life? Others cut in half with no blood and gore? But Santa being real? Nah, that's too crazy for you. He made a good enough point, but there was no way I was going to let him know that. Everyone has their line. He guffawed at my words and slowly, pitifully rolled off of his bag and onto the floor. He looked like a turtle flipped over onto his shell, except he was a grown man with at least some degree of human intelligence, so it wasn't exactly cute. I need your help figuring this out. You? My help? Why? I don't want to help. He finally made it to his feet, upright, and passed me by, picking his way through the messy motel room. I pitied the poor janitors who'd end up cleaning the place out when he'd eventually moved on to the next place. Hopefully he knew I wasn't going to be footing the bill on this one, or else he was going to up for a rude surprise. You do remember that you seriously owe me, right? Or do I need to remind you of all the favours you owe me right now? He groaned, tipping his head back. Fine, fine. No need to pull out the checklist, Mom. He towed some boots on and pulled a jacket over his shoulders. Where are we starting exactly? Getting information about the people who come into my office is a lot like pulling teeth. Except the person whose teeth you're pulling has nothing to numb them, and also they're an MMA fighter with a serious vendetta against you. Sometimes the sheriff decided to grace me with the knowledge of where exactly they'd been found, while others he figured it unnecessary. The cops and paramedics spoke to me as little as possible, and any time I tried to ask any questions, they simply made up excuses to leave the conversation. Really, I'm not too sure how they expected me to do my job when they didn't tell me the most basic fucking information necessary. That's where Liam was going to come in. Maybe you consider it unethical, and hell, maybe it kind of was. Calling in to the police station pretending to be the family member of a dead guy demanding to know where he'd been found, lest they press charges. Liam played the part quite well, doing this twice to find out just where two of our guys had been found. For one of the calls, he pitched his voice into just about the worst falsetto I've ever heard, while pretending to be the old wife of one of the men. Yeah, it really was unethical and pretty disrespectful, but at the same time, it was in the name of justice and all that bullshit. A little bit to be known about our town's layout is that it's set into the side of a mountain just where it flattens out a bit. Further upwards is a whole lot of nothing aside from the odd hiking trail and cabin, while below leads to another large town. Luckily for them, they miss whatever causes this weird stuff to happen. Each of the bodies were found along the edges of the town, forming a ring-like shape. The bodies never got found within town, only along the fringes and out in the sprawling woods. Maybe that was why so few spoke of it. They didn't need to, because they didn't know. They never saw the carnage, nor were they directly affected by it. Really, I can't blame them. If I could just ignore it, not ever knowing the kind of things that went on here, I'd happily live my life out in ignorance of it all. Hell, for the 10 years I'd done just that. I'd ignored it, pretended it wasn't weird as fuck, and went about my life. But now, things were a bit different. Sorry about the tangent, it really isn't relevant to the story, so we'll move on. We visited each of the places at night, trekking through the snow in the darkness, looking around for any evidence. There wasn't much there. Some trenches in the snow where the body had been found, footprints and glitter. We'd almost missed it. The snow itself sparkled under the moonlight, so picking apart what was glitter and what was snow was more than a little difficult. Some of it was stuck to the bark of the nearby trees or mixed in with the snow, the highest concentration being where the bodies had been. It was weird because none of the bodies had even a hint of glitter on or inside them. Sure, they had those weird ass gift boxes inside them with the ash coat in the insides, but that was pretty different from shitty plastic that was exactly the type of shit that had riled up the recent demands from scientists for their bans.
"This sucks,"
Liam groaned, trudging through the thick snow in his less than appropriate choice in outerwear. I didn't feel very sympathetic for him. I told him to put something heavier on, that while where he was from the winters may be mild, but here they sure as hell weren't. Still, he concluded that he knew better than the one who lived in the area her whole life, thus would be the most acquainted with the weather. Our hike was uphill, and mixing the fact I'm not the most outdoorsy of people and that I hadn't had a good workout in an embarrassingly long time, my legs and back were burning something fierce. I was a tad bit cheered up watching Liam catch his fall on his face. Him sitting upright, snow and ice sticking to his facial hair was like something out of a kid's cartoon, and I'll admit that I laughed at him. Anyone would have. Honestly, there were a few moments pressing forward through the bitter cold, soaked from the toes to the knees, that I thought of calling it off, giving in to Liam's whining and just turning back. Nothing seemed more tempting in that moment than a warm shower and curling into bed. But in the moment that I was truly considering it, something shone overhead. Liam and I shared a glance, silent. Faintly up ahead was the faint, rhythmic chimes of bells, the kind you find affixed to a horse's collar or to a Christmas-themed wreath. And that smell. What's that fucking... Finally, we made it to a clearing in the trees. Snow still deep and undisturbed around us. It was dark, quiet, and clearly no one else had been here since the major snow dump we'd gotten a week before.
"It's a ghost,"
Liam whispered, breaking away from analysing our surroundings. "What are you talking about?" I matched his low tone. I wasn't sure why. There really wasn't any reason to conceal ourselves, but nevertheless I felt compelled to do so.
"Well, there was obviously something up here a minute ago, but all of a sudden it's gone. Clearly, that means it's a ghost."
I wanted to contest, but really, how far-fetched were ghosts really? I'm not a particularly spiritual type. Whether that is good or bad for my line of work, I do not know. But I'm not also so blind as to believe that everything that happens here falls within the laws science dictates. Hell, mysterious noises coming from the woods are nowhere near being within my top 100. It always got weirder, and no one ever offered an explanation for... Thud! My thoughts were interrupted by the ground rattling fiercely. Snow displacing and shooting in all directions, briefly blinding me and Liam as something large and hulking collided with the ground. Snow clung to my eyelashes, but even through squinting eyes peering past the raging blizzard that bit at my skin, I could make out the object that had landed, large and wooden, ornate carving etched along the sides, decorated trees, snowmen and little elves dancing along its sides, telling a story so old and beyond me it was difficult to decipher its meaning, true meaning, only its most basic of theme understood to me.
Oh,
Liam breathed, awe colouring his voice as he watched in wide-eyed astonishment as a large lumbering figure climbed over the side, heavy boots hitting the ground and digging deep crevices in the deep yet light snow as it moved. The animals at the head of the sleigh huffed out sharp breaths, ears flicking as they observed their surroundings with disinterest.
You're,
Indeed, young man. It is true. One and only Santa Claus. He gave a bright, cheery grin, the type you'd see on a Coca-Cola Christmas advertisement. Rosy cheeks, little spectacles and all. He was the most classic depiction of St. Nicholas you could imagine, except real, riding a genuine flying sleigh with legitimate reindeer leading his way. Hell, the animal at the front, nose glowed faint red, colouring the shimmering snow that tore around us a slight pink. This is fucking ridiculous. Are you the one? I couldn't bring myself to say it, to make the accusation. There's something so genuinely wrong, inappropriate to accuse Santa Claus of serial murder. I mean, for God's sake, if you're naughty, you get some damn coal in your stocking, not fucking murked by the jolly old fat man.
It's true, young miss, that I am the one behind all those things you've been dealing with. I truly apologise. You should not have to deal with the aftermath of my work. I'm not sure why they ended up here.
Liam blinked, glancing rapidly between me and Santa Claus.
Wait, let me get this straight. You been murdering other Santa Claus? What is this? The Santa Hunger Games?
St. Nick gave a hearty chuckle, shaking his head slowly.
No. Well, yes, it is true that I am responsible for those men's deaths. It is only to right their wrongs as best as possible.
I frowned, tugging my hood further down my face to attempt to shield myself from the wind and ice. Right their wrongs? They on some kind of extreme naughty list? I asked, and his face morphed into something solemn, downtrodden.
When I lent those men the name of Santa Claus, they were entrusted with the duty to spread cheer and goodwill to those around them, to the children of the world especially. They broke that deal, went back on our agreement and tarnished the good name of Santa in the minds of many children.
The twinkle in his eyes had faded. The jolly blush sucked from his skin. He looked almost grey as he spoke, dead, cheeks hollow and sallow, beard suddenly less full and bright. He looked much less like the perfect image of Santa Claus he had just been.
For that transgression, I decided I must deal with them the only way I see fit. It will not unburden those targeted, but it is of some sort justice that they are removed from the equation altogether. You mean all the Santas around the world? Every mole Santa out there?
Liam shivered. rubbing his arms through the jacket he wore. Suddenly, Santa didn't look so doom and gloom, perking up once more, a cheer and a clap, face warm with colour and puffy with fat.
Yes, it's true. Everyone who dons the title of Santa is a personal friend. They've signed a waiver and everything. Being Santa is an incredibly important job after all, and certainly not something that I alone could do.
I waited for a second to question how in God's name this guy was supposed to keep in contact with so many people, to run such a huge organisation with people around the globe, and manage to know about some unseen crimes these people he'd hired had committed, whatever they may be. Then I remembered that he was Santa. So what was the point in questioning it? He probably had some adult naughty list going on that kept track of that stuff. Just like how Santa knew you were being bad despite there being no witnesses to see it. Wait, you mentioned you don't know how they got here. So that means them ending up so far away isn't your doing? Santa shook his head no. Something else was behind this, behind the sheer amount of weirdness. Santa may have been the one behind, and God, I can't believe I'm going to say this, the deaths of these guys, but them ending up so far from home in the woods of our tiny little town in the mountains, that had to be something else. I don't like that idea, that there's something else. Suddenly Santa was moving once more, reaching into the comically large sack strapped to his sleigh and rooting through. He had a look of concentration on his face, eyes squinted and tongue sticking out slightly from between pink lips.
Aha!
He calls, stepping back clearly, having now found the item he had been looking for. Turning back, he now had 2 palm-sized boxes grasped in each hand, decorated beautifully, then strode over with a surprising grace one would not expect from a man his size, and extended 1 box to each of us.
I'm sure this has all been a great bother for you. So here, a special gift right from Santa himself.
He winked. Carefully, hesitantly, I accepted the gift from him. It was a deep dark red with a gold ribbon tying it together. A bit voluminous bow sitting upon the lid. A little tag hung off the side. On it was written, "To Miss Esme Hall, from Santa Claus." I wasn't entirely sure what to think of it, so I glanced at Liam, who was awkwardly shaking his head, trying to get a guess of what exactly would be inside.
I'd suggest you both wait until you get home before opening those up. In fact, I'd say it'd be best to open them on Christmas morning.
Thankfully, Liam didn't make comment about how it technically was Christmas morning, instead nodding to the spirit of Christmas. Santa started back to his sleigh, but just before he got there, he turned back, putting his hands together.
Oh, and I ask you not to tell anyone of this.
We nodded in agreement. Santa grabbed hold of the reins, snapping them and prompting the deer to haul them forward. They bounded forward, and midway through the snowy clearing they took flight, the sound of sleigh bells ringing through the air as they took to the dark skies. Honestly, I was a little bit disappointed he didn't let out his signature ho 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 as he took off, but maybe that was stupid of me to expect. For all I know, that was something that only came through my shitty Christmas movies, only created to make a quick buck off of the holiday hype. Ian was quick to want to leave, something I could now sympathise with him due to the cold. There was nothing left to hint that he'd ever been there. no proof of his existence at all. To the outside world, this had never happened, and there was nothing I could do to change that. I prefer that, the world not knowing. If people truly believed all of what I'm saying, knew that I was more than just some storyteller sitting behind a computer typing away fantastical stories, well, I think that'd just make it all too real for me. That's why I don't worry about following what he'd asked of me, because I know that ultimately, me telling this story won't actually matter. I won't convince anyone of anything, aside from maybe that I'm crazy. In the warmth of my home, I opened the gift box up, and inside was a small snow globe, base and aged bronze. Instead of a little snowman or Santa's sleigh surrounded by swirling faux snow, there was a perfectly hand-painted replica of my mortuary, every minute detail copied down perfectly. The second of the double doors that didn't match the other, the crack in the lower left wall of the building from where a grieving old woman had accidentally hit the gas instead of the brakes. It was perfect in every conceivable way, and with a gentle shake, snow that didn't look as fake as one would expect rose from the bottom of the decoration, churning within. It really looked as though someone had grabbed the office, shrunk it and stuck it inside this tiny little decoration. The light within the mini mortuary office flicked on, and the front door swung open. And I hope you enjoy the blooper reel. Weird way to put. And the states in which they arrive can They didn't even vary with colour, though which was by far possibly scrapes or abrasions from nothing requesting information about who saw them. He guffed at my words and slowly, pitifully rolled off on. Hopefully he knew I wasn't going to be footing the bill on this one, or else he was going to go for a Fine. No need to pull out the check, Lee. Our hike was uphill, and mixing the fact I'm not the most Our hike was uphill, and mixing the fact I'm not the most outdoorsy of people. Fuck's sake. I was a bit tad cheered up watching Liam catching. I was a bit cheered up by fucking hell. I was a bit cheered up. I was a tad bit cheered up watching Liam catch his fall. Motherfucker. To run such a huge organisation with people around the globe and manage to know what some unseen crimes the. I wasn't entirely sure what to think of it, so I glanced up at Dee and.
I'd suggest you both wait until you get home before opening though.
Fuck's sake. Hey family, please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to chokehold that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. and by subscribing you'll be the first to see all of our new spooky creepypasta stories. A very big thank you to Loli-nero for allowing me to narrate this awesome series. Make sure to check out their Reddit profile for more brilliant stories. And be sure to take a look at the playlist here for more of their stories that I may have already narrated. I would just like to say a very big thank you to all of the authors that I have worked with and all the ones that I will work with in the future. So thank you all, my brothers and sisters. And why not hashtag Cryptids Roost in your comments. A quick thank you to all of my Cryptids Roost community family too. We are now well on our journey to 1000 subscribers, so please spread the word and help us to grow and expand. And don't forget to share the videos too. If you would like to throw me $1 or $3, I'd be very much appreciative. I do have PayPal, paypal.me/cryptidsroost. Alternatively, I have an account at buymeacoffee.com. You don't even need to register on either site to donate. You can also follow us at my Facebook group, Twitter and Instagram. I also have Ko-Fi, BitChute and Rumble. I have a subreddit if you have a story you've written that you'd like me to narrate for you. All relevant links will be below. And don't forget to check out the end screen, see above. That will also list some more videos in my back catalogue. Take care everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful and peaceful night. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.